Hello and welcome to Indie Designer Journal episode 4. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of things. One is the crafting system I'm coming up with for the Alchemy for UnderQuest. We sort of touched a little bit on it, and I think it was episode 1 or was it episode 2. We talked about using cards and combining cards to come up with potions. I have a few ideas, and one was a suggestion from one of the comments in one of the videos. So hopefully I'll be able to give a shout out to that person. Also, we're going to look at another dungeon crawl game from another designer that's available in the Game Crafter. That game is Rogue Dungeon. So I just played a round of it, and we're going to go over my thoughts on it. Not necessarily a review. I don't want to really be reviewing other people's games, but I want to talk about some of the mechanics that I find interesting as a designer myself. So stick around for that. That'll be in the back half of the video. So thanks for joining us. Let's turn this camera around to the table. Okay, now we're going to look at the Alchemy system. I think it was episode 2 that we discussed this to begin with, and I'm going to go quickly over what we talked about last time. So what we have here, I just made up 5 ingredients. And they all have these different symbols on here, some representing health, energy, curing of poison, food, and maybe removing a curse. These are just arbitrary for now, but just to give an idea of how this system would work. Say you kill a monster, one of the rewards for killing the monster is you gain an ingredient. So now I have an ogre toe. And maybe you can purchase ingredients from alchemists, traveling alchemists, or all different ways. But as you start gaining these, you would, have a few of them in your hands. Let's say you have 3 of them. And in this initial system, how it would have worked is you'd have to match symbols. So I could combine the ogre toe and the rat tail to get some food because they both have a matching symbol. Or I could combine the rat tail with impure thoughts and I could recover 4 health. Or I could put these together and remove a curse. And that's about all I can do with these. It's not until I get more ingredients that my capabilities improve. Now I can cure some poison, and this one here allows me to heal a lot of health if I were to combine those 2 together. So it's really just about matching symbols. I think it adds, just this alone would add quite a bit of fun, like kind of a small mini game within the game for crafting potions. So after getting some good feedback in the comments sections, someone came up with the idea or suggested the idea of just allowing you have to match up the rows. So let's say I had these 2 ingredients. I could make a potion. I wouldn't have to wait for another card. I mean, in the other system, I could have matched the energy or the hearts together. But in this system, this gentleman's suggestion was to whatever's in the row, you combine. So just for an example, if I were to combine this ogre toe with the eye of a needle, I could do this top row, which would give my character 2 hearts and 2 energy. Or I could do the middle row, which would give me 3 energy and 2 health. So that's obviously the better route. Or I could combine this lower row and I could remove a curse and gain some food. I kind of like that idea in that it allows just any 2 elements to be added together, and you don't know what exactly you're going to be able to create. It won't just be a potion of health, like just combining all the hearts or all the energy. It would be some sort of unique potion, which would make kind of sense. You're mixing weird things together. So I could do this and get kind of a smaller health potion or heal 3 health, or food and 3 energy, or cure 2 poison and remove a curse. So that's how this system would work. I made new cards just because I didn't want, and the other cards had all the hearts on the top row, so I kind of shuffled them up so this would work, so that it wouldn't always be you're making the same stuff. So like this, I could make a stronger health potion or a stronger energy potion if I just happen to have these 2 cards. But in most cases, it'd be some sort of mixture. And that's how that system would work. So I'm obviously open for suggestions on that. So what I kind of did was went one more step with it and I'm curious if I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be, but now we have 4 rows of icons. Some of them have nothing in them. So let's just say I had these 2 cards. I have the Dragon Fart and the Ogre Toe. I can combine them, but I only have one possibility, because the one thing I didn't necessarily like about this, combining these 2, is now I have 3 choices, which choices for the player is always good, but this almost seems too much. Like you're able to make potions no matter what. So in this scenario, if I get the Dragon Fart and an Ogre Toe, I put them together, it's only what lines up in the row. So there's nothing. I can't make a potion for this. The only potion I can make with these 2 elements would be something that cures 1 poison and gives me 3 energy. That's it. Now if I add the Rat Tail to the mix, now I have more possibilities. I could do some sort of a healing potion here, or I could do something here that gives me energy and hearts, or I could choose to go this route. Or maybe if you can I don't know how I like the idea of you being able to combine all of you. You'd have to choose something. So I could go with, if I really needed food, 1 health, or 2 health and 3 energy. Now you have some cards like this that have symbols on all the different 4 different locations. So obviously it's a more powerful ingredient, because it allows you always to make some sort of a potion. This one here, or this potion here, or I can mix it with this here and go with this and this, or this. I kind of like this idea, and these little circles here just indicate value, because these ingredients here only have 2 sort of things that can be broken down into for making potions, whereas these ones each have 3, and these ones have this one here has 4. So I would assume they would have more value at market, so you could trade them in and get a different amount of gold for them. So that's how this system works. I kind of like this. I'm leaning towards this right now, or the original. This is sort of a hybrid of the suggestion that was given to me. As soon as I heard that suggestion of things matching in a row, I liked the game that would create, where your character would be gaining these cards and have to make some decisions as to, should I just, use this now, or should I wait and hopefully get a better ingredient and make a better potion. So let me know how you feel about this system. Obviously leave some comments for suggestions. I've been trying my best to respond to every single comment in all the videos. So thank you very much. Let me know if you have any better ideas for how to do some alchemy. Thanks. Okay, welcome to the table. What I have here in front of you is a very solid dungeon crawling game that's available in the Game Crafter right now. It's called Dungeon Rogue. Some of you may have heard of it. Something that I try to do as a indie designer is pick up as many other indie games as I can, especially games that match some of the things that I'm always trying to work on. I love dungeon crawl games, obviously. About half of my games sort of fall into that genre. So it was a no-brainer for me to pick up this Rogue Dungeon, because it's gotten some pretty good reviews online, especially on the Dungeon Dive. So that sort of pushed me to, make that purchase. Like I said, I think it's $49.99, so essentially $50, and you get quite a bit of stuff. You get a nice box. You get really well-written rule book, tons of cards, as you can see, a little play mat that comes with it, some chits, dice, punt, obviously lots of cards. So essentially what's happening in this game, I don't want to go, this isn't really going to be a review of the game, but I want to touch on some of the things that I like as a designer. So as a designer, whenever I'm playing a game, I'm looking at things that I like, things that I feel like I could essentially use in some of my designs, or maybe things that I might do a little bit differently. But I don't feel like this game needs much critique, because I think it's very solid. There's not very much here that I would personally change. I would actually like to see more of it, more characters and things of that nature. And I don't know if there is an expansion for this game or not. But essentially what you're doing in this game is you have a little meeple here. You're moving around this little map, and as you land on different color icons, they make you draw a card. So each one of these decks, I don't know if you can see them, but there are different colored gems on the top. Some have yellow, some have red, blah, blah, blah. They correspond with these different colored gems on the map, and as you pass, and this is really not the best example, this card here, typically they're more like a traditional dungeon room. So you start at the stairs, you need to go through this room here, so you'd have to draw a red card. Then you'd go into this room here, you draw a yellow card, and then you'd have some choices. You can go 3 different directions and eventually work your way out of the dungeon. So this one, no, there's only one exit. Okay, but in any case, there's different ways you can go, different rooms you can go into and explore. And each one of these decks represents different things. So red usually means danger, and in this game, red definitely means danger. In fact, the card that killed me in this game, you can see here, killed my Crusader on the second level, was this Pit of Despair, which is a red card. So I drew it, and it says, draw 3 monsters and resolve combat. So I ended up fighting a Hobgoblin, a Direwolf, and a Lizard Man. And the way that it handles multiple enemies is very unique, because that's something that's difficult that I've tried to wrap my head around. There's a lot of other games that do it, but when you're playing a single character and you're playing solo and you're fighting against multiple enemies, there's a lot of ways you could handle that. You could have your character fight each monster each round, or you get to attack. You choose one and they all get to attack you. How do you handle that? And this game handles it in a very simple way. So I'll show you really quickly. So this is how the combat started for me. I drew these 3 enemies at random from the level. That's another thing. Each level of the dungeon that you explore, you basically work your way on the 5th floor. You draw a new card each time, and that's your dungeon level. You also have the monsters get increasingly more difficult. As you can see, I only made it to level 2, and I got murdered because of that stupid Pit of Despair card, which made me fight 3 monsters. But back to how that works, which is one of the mechanics I wanted to point out, because it's really kind of simple, but makes sense. So these are the 3 enemies I pick, that were not picked, that I randomly drew. On the beginning of my turn, I need to decide which enemy I am going to focus on. So I just decided I'll go from left to right, because I looked at their stats and there was really not a whole lot of difference there. So I picked I'm going to fight the Hobgoblin first. And what happens is the other enemies give the number of other enemies that are not being targeted, they give a bonus to the enemy you are targeting. So since I'm fighting the Hobgoblin and there's 2 other enemies, I get to add, he gets +2 to his basically his battle power. I forgot the technical term for it, but his strength, essentially. So his strength is normally 10, but now since there's 2 other enemies with him, he has a strength of 12. So how you resolve combat is quite simple. I have the Crusader. He specializes in, I forgot I'm assuming this is a strength icon, and I had it boosted up to strength of 4. I roll a 10-sided dice. I add my strength to it, and I need to hit the number that or the power of the enemy I'm fighting. So in this case, I need to hit a 12. So in order to hit a 12 with only getting a +4 bonus, I would need to roll an 8, 9, or 10, which was not easy to do, but I managed to do it. There's also luck tokens that you can get. You start off with 2 early, and then when you start the game, at least with the Crusader you do. I blasted through them right away, kind of prematurely, and I probably should have saved them more for combat. I did not expect to have to fight 3 enemies at once. I did get in a battle with 2 enemies on the first floor, but in any case, you roll your dice. If you hit, so let's say I rolled a 9, I add 9 plus my 4 would be 13. That exceeds the Hobgoblin's 12. I do damage equal to whatever amount of damage my character can do. So the Crusader, because I picked up a dagger at some point, I can do 2 damage because I have a sword and a dagger. I do 2 damage. He has a health of 3. I was able to kill the Hobgoblin on a single blow because I had this other loot card that picked up a pickaxe, which I discard to inflict 1 extra damage. So I felt that just to get rid of him would be important enough to get rid of that. So I did 3 damage, killed him, and then I had to fight the Direwolf. So then what do? Now it's very simple. all I have to do is, since I'm fighting the direwolf, that's who I'm targeting, there's one other enemy. Now the direwolf gets to add 1 because that's how many extra enemies. So it's a real easy way to make it so, yeah, I guess it's not 100% perfect, because in reality you'd be fighting 3 enemies at once. They'd be probably surrounding you and they'd all be getting hits in on you. But I think it's a really simple way of allowing for you to have to fight through a multitude of enemies, and the number of other enemies are what boosts the one that you're targeted on. So maybe you figure you're like in a corridor or something, and you're just fighting them one at a time. But in any case, I thought it was a very simple way of handling it. It's one of the things I liked a lot about this game. And the combat's good. It's a dice roll, so there's a little bit of swinginess to that, but you know in your head how well you're going to do. I don't think there's a way of fleeing combat in this game. I really wish there was, but I don't think there is. That'd be kind of something that'd be kind of interesting, because I might have dropped loot or paid some serious costs just to survive, because doing the math in my head, I knew I'd have to roll really well to get through this, and I obviously didn't. But it's a rogue. The game's called Rogue Dungeon, so what am I to expect? But again, back to these cards. Every one of these gems on this map corresponds with a different deck of cards. So you start to realize the green ones are good, so are the white ones, or the diamonds usually are something positive. The red ones you're trying to get away from. You have to go through them at some point, and then the yellow ones are usually some sort of a check, or you're in a maze and you have to see if you can get out of it, and all different types of things like that. So I really like how that plays out, because you shuffle those decks every time you play. You're gonna get different dungeon levels, so there's a lot of variability. So this game's gonna have a ton of replay value just with what's here. So really enjoyed this game. Combat was fun, exciting. When I charmed that the cave bear, that was exciting for me, even though he was more of just kind of like a meat shield that I could get rid of and deflect some damage. It was still a fun experience, and when you get a good roll on your checks, when I was able to manage to get out of the spider webs on a single roll, I was shocked that I was able to roll under my strength, because I think at the time it was a 3, so I needed to roll a 1, 2, or 3 on a 10-sided dice. Obviously that's a 30% chance, and I was able to do it, and I got some experience for being able to do that, and I don't know if I gained a loot card for that, but in any case, I think the game is very dialed in. If there is not an expansion for this game, I would love to see it. I'm actually a big fan of the artwork in this game. The backs of the cards, this simple, I don't know what you'd call it, this tone reminds me of the original Baldur's Gate. The whole game really feels like it was 1997 or something. There's a very late 90s, early 2000 feel to it. The artwork seems pretty cohesive to me. I'm a fan of it, and I'm going to set it back up, and I'm going to play it again once this video's over. So that's all I got for this one. It's a good one, and I would check it out if it seems interesting to you. Thanks. As always, I appreciate you stopping by and watching this video. If you have any ideas for topics that you'd like me to discuss or go over from a designer's perspective or from an indie publisher's perspective, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. I hope that you like the content as far as looking at a game from another designer, another fellow indie designer. So I have a few other games that I just purchased that I plan on playing, and hopefully find some cool mechanics in there that we can discuss. Also, if you have any ideas for my Alchemy system, please leave a comment below. If you like this content, I urge you to subscribe to this channel, and please like and all that type of stuff. I'm not really good at self-promoting, but I do appreciate seeing that I'm getting some more subscribers, and I think it's because of these videos, and I'm hoping that the content is useful and helpful to other people. So thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.